this video, I'll be sharing with you a summary of Good to Great book by Jim Collins, released in 2001 and soon became a bestseller and a management strategy classic. At the start of the book, Collins highlighted that he considered the word good to be an enemy of the word great, because basically when companies reach a good status, they settle for the status and they don't work enough to become great. The book addressed how companies move from a good status to a great one, and what those companies that manage the transition done different than the market and the market practice. To answer this research question, Colin and his research team researched and studied a number of companies that managed to achieve the good to great results. They studied a number of companies that achieve 15 years of at or below the market performance rate, followed by transition period, or and another 15 years of 3 times or more the market performance rate. And also they studied a comparison companies that they were in the same industries, facing the same challenges, having the same opportunities, but couldn't achieve the good to great results, or other companies that achieved the good to great results but couldn't sustain it. The data was then compared, not to find common factors or what those good to great companies managed to do similar to each other, but rather what they have done different than the market that distinguish them from the market and the rest of the comparison companies. The data was then analyzed of all the research companies based on all business aspects of strategy, leadership, results, technology, tactics. What they didn't find, what the research team didn't find in the research, in the analyzed data, that none of these companies, good to great companies, were led or managed by larger than life leaders or celebrity CEOs coming from outside the company, but they all managed by leaders came from inside the company. No executive compensation was linked to performance at all. The strategy didn't separate or distinguish the good to great companies than the rest. There was no focus on what to do in these companies, but rather what not to do. Technology had nothing to do with the transformation. Merger and acquisition played no role at all in the transformation. There was no attention given to managing people and or motivation. The focus on those companies were not on the process, but rather on the end results. Good to great companies were not in great industries anyway. The analyzed data was then presented in a form of a diagram or a framework, what Colin called the flywheel framework, which presented the transformation as a process of build up and followed by breakthrough. The process was broken into 3 broad stages: discipline people, discipline thoughts, and the discipline action. Each of these disciplines were served by 2 main concepts. Like, for example, under discipline people, there are level 5 leadership, and first who then what. Under discipline thought, there are confront the brutal fact and hedgehog concept, and under the discipline action, there are culture of discipline and technology accelerated. Each of those concepts were explained in details throughout the book. The first concept under the discipline people stage is level 5 leadership. Colin identified the hierarchy of executive capabilities from level 1 to level 5 being the highest level of executives capable of leading the good to great companies. It was suggested by Colin, though, that leaders do not need to move from one level to another to be able to lead the good to great companies, but rather can be at the highest level and fill up the requirements for the lower levels at a later stage. Good to great leaders were all cut of the same cloth, regardless of the industry or the situation of the company that they are leading. They all have the level 5 leadership qualities. The research identified common characteristics for leaders of the good to great companies or level 5 leaders. They all found to be a mix of humility and will, so they are modest, willful, humble, have no ego, and fight for the greatness of the company. They were found to be ambitious, first and foremost for the company, and they are concerned for its success rather than their own richness. They were found to be modest, so they don't talk about themselves, they don't take credit, but rather they talk about the contribution of others. They were found to be firm and determined, so they are not not just humble, but they are determined to do what it takes to make the company great, and they focus mainly on the result. They are responsible and take responsibility whenever things go wrong. So they look at the mirror to take blame and responsibility if things go wrong, but they look at the window to find people to give them credit. If we look at the two sides of the level 5 leader character, on the professional side, he or she achieves superb results, do what it takes to make the company great, and set standard and settle for nothing less than those standards. They look at the mirror to take blame whenever things go wrong. On the personal side, they are modest, quiet and calm. They channel ambition to company greatness, and they set up successor for great success, and they look at the window to give credit. Somebody asked Collins that is it easy to become a level 5 leader, or can someone learn to be a level 5 leader? The answer was yes, because most leaders have the potential and could develop their capabilities to become level 5 leaders, except those who are egocentric, who cannot bring themselves to build something larger than them. The second concept under the discipline people stage is first who then what. Good to great companies start the process of the transformation by getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, and then set the direction later, not the opposite. This is mainly because good to great leaders, they understand three important facts: that if you have the right people on the bus, it's easy to fix the direction later and even adapt it, because people get on the bus at the start not because where is the bus is going, but because of everybody else on the bus. And if you have the right people on the bus, the problem of motivation and management goes away because those people, they don't need the management. And if you have the wrong people on the bus though, but you have the right direction, it wouldn't matter because you will not reach anywhere. Good to great companies put people first, before vision, before strategies, before tactics, and before structure and technology and all other business aspects. Because if you have the right people on the bus, it's easy to get those factors right later. In doing so, good to great companies hire people, the right people, whenever they find them, even if they don't have a specific job for them in mind. On the other hand, most companies follow the concept of genius with 1,000 of helpers, where companies get extraordinary individual to become the driving force of the company, with a loss of helpers and soldiers to help him or her to achieve their vision. But in this case, if the leader leaves, the helpers are lost. Those companies follow first what then who concept. It was found that in the good to great companies, there is no pattern linking the executive compensation to transformation from good to great, not the salaries, not the bonuses or the stock option. On the contrary, good to great executives were found to be taking slightly less than their counterpart in other companies. This is driven from the first who then what concept. So good to great companies decide first who to compensate, and then how and what they will compensate them with, because when they get the right people on board, they will do everything. They will do whatever it takes to drive the company to success, regardless of their compensation, because this is their principle. In the good to great companies, people are not the greatest asset, but right people are. Good to great companies are rigorous but not ruthless. Good to great companies are tough to work for, so if you don't have the right qualities, you will not last. Good to great companies keep introducing hard standards and raising the bar to make it tough for the people who don't have the right qualities to stay, but they don't go around firing people for no reason. Most importantly, they are especially rigorous at the top management. So how to become rigorous? When in doubt, do not hire, rather keep looking. Good to great companies do not compromise. They find a way to get through until they find the right people. Good to great leaders recognize that the ability to build a great company doesn't depend on opportunities or market or product, but on getting the right people and keeping them. Second point is when you know that you need to make a people change, just do it and an act. Letting the wrong people on the bus for long, it's unfair for the right people, and it's equally also unfair for the people who need to leave. Good to great companies, they don't try many people and keep the people who will suit them on board, but rather they wait until they find the right people, and when they find the right people, they do everything to keep them. Good to great companies show certain patterns at the top management. People, they either stay for long or leave in a hurry. 3 is put your best people on your biggest opportunities. So good to great companies put best people on biggest opportunities, but not on the biggest problem, because if they have to sell the biggest problem or their problems in the future, they don't have to sell with them their good people. And by putting their good people on their biggest opportunity, they create a sustainable place for them to stay and to grow. Good to great companies realize that solving the problem can make the company good, but building on the opportunities is the only way to make the company great.